This week on Driven. Stopping traffic in LA, it's the Petersen Automotive Museum. And that's just the outside. Wait until you see what's inside one of the world's largest automotive museums. Plus, museum quality classics in Phoenix, where you'd least expect to see them. If you're looking for car stories, who are you gonna call? Driven. Los Angeles, a city of a million stories. A million stories, but only a few headlines. With so many stories, the City of Angels is known for judging a book by its cover. But if the cover looks like the exterior of the Petersen Automotive Museum, then judge away, because what's inside is worth the read.
We are storytellers here at the Petersen. That's really the baseline criteria, is that the car or the motorcycle, whatever object we display, has to have an amazing story behind it.
The Petersen Automotive Museum has its own epic tale that started out with the love of speed and the outlaw hot rod.
California was the epicenter for motorsports because of the weather and because of the open land in the 40s and 50s, that racetracks could be erected fairly easily, either board tracks or dirt tracks. But then it developed into a huge opportunity for hot rodders to really be celebrated. That was really our origins. Bob Petersen started Hot Rod magazine in 1948, and that grew into a huge publishing empire. But it started with celebrating kind of the niche audience of hot rodders. And the story of his empire developing was, hot rod was an opportunity. He went to a car show that was hot rods, and he was a contractor. And the pamphlet he made evolved into the first Hot Rod magazine. And the story that I've been told is that he asked the big three to advertise in Hot Rod, and their response was, why would I advertise? I want to sell new cars, not used cars. So he created Motor Trend, that was reviews of new cars, and then Automobile, which again continued that. So I think in his mind he had a vision for what he could do, but hot rods were the gateway to that.
Petersen's vision helped change the image of hot rods and forever changed the automotive world.
Hot rodding has changed with time, but we celebrate the origin of the original 32s and hot rods all the way up to the modern hot rodding. So that is the California car culture, is because we are a car city, we wear cars like the outermost layer of our clothing. They are an accessory to us.
Those accessories come with major horsepower and major price tags.
California is unique in that you'll see the full spectrum of cars. We're fortunate enough to have the proximity to cars like the ones in this gallery, where you'll see a Bugatti on the road. And, that's one of the benefits I think about the collection, is that we are right in the heart of Los Angeles. Like, the location makes all of these stories and vehicles that much more accessible.
In a place where a supercar can be seen every day, you need something different to stop traffic. And that's what the Petersen does. Call it an attention-grabbing cover story.
This building started off as a department store, and the building sat dormant for quite some time. And in 1994, it opened to the public, still with kind of the configuration of a department store, so it wasn't set up to be a museum. We kind of made it work to be a museum. And in 2015, we opened with this design, and the exterior design represents the airflow of a car. And now when you look at it, you can't miss it. Before it was a gray building with black windows. Now when you drive down Wilshire, you can see it from half a mile away.
It is here that the Petersen takes its place along Museum Row, staking a claim and proving the point that the automotive world is a world of art.
Inside, we wanted to elevate it so that the cars were represented at the same level as fine art. Cars are kinetic art, right? And I think we also really wanted to make the museum a shareable experience. So, we encourage people to take pictures and photos. We try to include a tactile on every floor so people can touch and feel and maybe even hop on certain objects. And so it's really important that the guest experience is interactive. And so that was another one of the criteria for the new building, is that everything is kind of free-flowing and it's an engaging experience for everyone.
For a hands-on experience, there is the Forza Motorsports Racing Experience.
I am sneaking up this joint. I'm out.
Which gets you behind the wheel, and if you're me, into the wall, repeatedly.
Now this is where I catch up.
Up next, we explore the exhibits of one of the world's largest automotive museums, including a collection of some of the most famous vehicles ever to appear in film and television. Driven's Day at the Museum continues. Along Museum Row in Los Angeles, the Petersen Automotive Museum stands out from the other collections because of the subject of their admiration.
You can't throw a painting under your arm and walk into a restaurant, but cars are enjoyable art. We get to experience them and enjoy them every day.
Very few people get to experience cars like Petersen's COO, Michael Bodell.
This is an awesome opportunity. How often do you get to see a C1 and a C8 go head-to-head, especially on an airstrip in beautiful Santa Margarita, California? So I'm excited, and let's have this thing go.
Your day probably doesn't include putting a C1 resto mod against a C8 Z51. But a visit to the Petersen will help you understand the power of cars. And we're not talking strictly horsepower here.
Cars represent freedom. Cars are, they're such a large investment for people. They're the second largest purchase that somebody's going to make other than a home typically. But also, everybody has a story about a car because of what they represent. And so there's a place for every genre of the car hobby at the Petersen.
The museum is also creating storylines by having a full event calendar, like Ferrari or Shelby cruise-ins, flying car unveilings, or even striking a pose at LA Fashion Week. Even if you can't Vogue, and who can, there are events and programs for all ages.
So we do about 150 events a year. Both at the museum and outside of the museum. We have vehicles from the collection traveling around the world to be experienced, in other locations. We have education programs for Title I students, high schoolers. We have vocation training in our workshop where we teach teens how to work on cars. And one of the terms we've liked to kind of coin is decriminalizing blue-collar work.
As much as the events and programs are helping to achieve the museum's mission, it is the exhibits that daily demonstrate the impact of the automobile on our lives and culture.
We have an amazing curatorial team and collections team who are always on the lookout for unique stories and the ones that will really entice an audience to come back and inspire people to be a first-time visitor. We have so many people who have other interests in fashion or technology that are coming into the museum for inspiration because of the diversity in our exhibits. And I think that's one of the best things, is that we do all of these events and we curate all of these exhibits, and it really is driving a new audience to have a different respect for the automobile.
There is literally something for everyone.
Our Hollywood Gallery, which is our Omaze Hollywood Gallery, we have 12 vehicles up there at the moment representing different time periods in Hollywood history.
Flux capacitor is ready.
Seeing the cars on display here that we have from various TV shows and films, it's kind of like meeting your heroes or the actors. People know the Back to the Future DeLorean or the Batmobile just like they know Batman or Marty McFly, right?
You made a time machine out of a DeLorean? Yeah, I did.
And so being up close and personal with these screen-used vehicles is pretty spectacular. And when the tactile on that floor is Lightning McQueen from the Cars films, and you see children run up and just give Lightning a big hug. And that's one of the coolest things, is that they're so relatable. And I think that's the joy of that exhibit, is people really are just shocked that we have the vehicles that are on display in that gallery.
Totally unrelatable, the Hypercars is another shocking exhibit that is so much fun to dream about.
This is definitely the car I think everybody aspires to, or the poster cars.
Define hypercar.
The threshold for hypercars were less than 1,000 made, more than $1 million, more than 1,000 horsepower. So the absolute premium, or kind of the top of the collecting hobby. But all of these cars are capable of, exceptional speed and are really feats of engineering. I think that's what's amazing to walk into, is that every car in this gallery can go over 200 miles an hour. And those are kind of unfathomable speeds to most, because we don't get to go that fast, but they're also works of art. I mean, you look at them and the design is beautiful, the fit and finish is beautiful, and we have different representations of ones that have gone after top speed records, alternative propulsion. So like behind me is an electric hypercar from the brand Neo. So these are all electric or hybrid, and then in the corner are kind of more traditional brands, right? Ferrari, Lamborghini, that people would typically associate with speed.
With exhibits like these, the real question always becomes, which one do you want? But like every good story, there's a twist.
We're not talking dream cars, we're talking daily practical, which is kind of hard in this museum to think practical, but if your daily driver would be?
Probably this. I mean, honestly, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. It's got enough seats for the family. It's safe, for my daughter, which is a big consideration for me. And it's fun. I think electric cars provide, the usability where if you want to punch it every once in a while, you can, and it will certainly perform. This would be a fun one to have as a daily driver. This would be my pick. What would be your pick as a daily driver?
My pick is in the museum too. Come on, I'll show you.
Up next, the pick. Plus, the Petersen opens up the vault when Driven returns. The Petersen Automotive Museum is full of Hollywood dreams.
Flux capacitor is ready.
Like the dream of driving any of their 500 vehicles. But when faced with a hypothetical choice from Michael Bodell, Petersen's COO, to pick an affordable daily driver, there was only one choice for me.
This would be my daily driver, right here. The VW bus.
It's a good choice. I think this car was much more accessible when it came out than it is today. These are very sought after collector's cars now.
You had these all on the roads in the 60s and 70s, and now the sale price on something like this
these are six-figure cars now, yeah.
Six-figure cars with 6 seats.
Yeah.
Perfect for family.
Yep, and with a tailwind, you might be able to get 65.
I wasn't looking for speed. I was looking for adventure.
It's freedom. This is
100%.
Nothing says open road like a VW bus and going where you want to.
If you wanted to take a road trip, this was the car of choice. And I think for some, it still is the car of choice.
What does it say about me that this is the car, the vehicle I would take out of the Petersen Museum?
You've got good taste. Almost every collector that I have met, started with an enthusiasm around Volkswagens. So you're on the right journey.
I'm on the right journey.
Yeah.
My journey would lead me to the basement and the old department store's massive parking garage.
We own the entire city block here, and we have a full city block underground of car storage.
It's now the vault presented by Haggerty. Imagine if the ancient Egyptians had cars, this would be King Tut's tomb.
It's kind of an interesting experience to walk in and just see, there's over 250 vehicles down there, and they are parked next to each other. What that looks like, because there's so many, it's kind of an overwhelming experience.
It's packed with power, prestige, and pure adrenaline. Entering the vault, I'm greeted by America's first supercar, the 1913 Mercer. It was said to go between 85 and 100 miles per hour in 1913.
But we have everything from the first Ferrari ever, serial number 01C, to Saddam Hussein's Mercedes 600 Landaulet. We have head of state cars, we have Hollywood cars, European, pre-war luxury, performance. Steve McQueen's Jaguar XKSS is down there, which is one of the crown jewels of the collection.
Steve McQueen's Jag. Legend has it that the police chief told any of his troopers if they could give Steve McQueen a ticket in this vehicle, free steak dinner. They all went hungry.
The vault is just one of those kind of, mind blowers. There's no stanchions in the cars, so you're walking around cars without any barriers, and some of the cars have, 8-figure values.
Bottom line, the Petersen has everything except for Chim Chim.
It's that much more to experience. We have about 200 cars or vehicles on display on all the other floors, and there's more cars in the vault than the rest of the museum.
The Petersen Automotive Museum is a true star in Los Angeles, and it all started with a story.
What's your car story that brought you into this career path?
I always had British cars in my family, which are notorious for being reliable. My dad had an old Lotus that never ran properly. My mom had Jaguars that were older Jaguars, and so we were always tinkering with cars. From 3 or 4 years old, I was handing tools, and by the time I was 12 or 13, I was working on the cars.
Michael's story also has its roots at the museum.
I used to come to the Petersen when I was younger, so for me this is a dream come true, and every day is a great opportunity to kind of pass that passion on. And we like to say there's 3 things that creates an automotive enthusiast. It's family, it's experience, and it's environment. So we can do 2 of those. We can provide the experience and the environment, but family is the strongest bond, and hopefully by a family visiting, we kind of create all 3.
Up next, we check out some museum-quality classics in Phoenix, where you'd least expect it. When Driven continues.
If you're looking for car stories, who are you gonna call?
Ghostbusters.
Driven. That's okay, you're totally fine. You're having fun. To find a collection of classics, you'd think car show, maybe a museum. You wouldn't think a bunch of classics would be hanging out with the new kids on the block. And I'm not talking about Donnie Wahlberg. I'm talking new car smell.
It's not a surprise that vintage vehicles are everywhere in Arizona. What is surprising is finding a collection of classics at a new car dealership in Surprise. Welcome to Sands Chevrolet.
Josh, I walk into a new car dealership and I end up in a car museum. What is happening here?
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, we're all car enthusiasts. That's why we're in the car business. And what a better way to come to work and be around some classics, the history of Chevrolet.
Who owns this collection?
Well, our owner, Buzz Sands. These are all his private collection. And rather than having that big house with 18 garages, he decided to just use the showroom as his garage and share these beautiful vehicles with the public. So it's sort of a kind of a Chevrolet museum here on our showroom floor.
Sands has enough history to fill a museum. Buzz's father, Louis, opened up shop in Arizona back in the 30s.
We've been in the Valley since 1934, and he just loves vehicles. And as we go along here, a majority of them are Corvettes. I mean, he's
if
a
you're gonna
sports
keep
car.
A Chevy,
oh yeah,
keep a Corvette, right?
Yeah, if you're gonna keep a Chevy, keep a Corvette. Jump up to an 87 here. We try to mix it up a little bit. The history of Corvettes and Chevrolet is just second to none when it comes to automobiles. It is the epitome of class, sports, style, and it is Chevrolet.
It's also history. The collection includes the game-changing 1957 Corvette.
This is the first fuel-injected.
Yeah, combined fuel injection with a 4-speed manual transmission. It increased the horsepower and displacement. It's 283 CI. But at the end of the day, I mean, look at this class. It's hard to walk by these cars and not give them their due respect, because they are the history of where we work. So
The entire showroom is a walk through Chevy history.
Do you have people just come in to see the cars?
Absolutely. They come in and we're like, how can we help you? And like, oh, no, nothing. I just wanted to come look at your beautiful museum. We're like, what museum? Right here. You just see them light up and it's like, I had this car. Oh, I wish I would have kept it. And then the next thing you know, you're in a half-hour conversation and they're down memory lane talking about, man, yeah, and you can do this with this car. And, I remember going to...
I remember my first girlfriend
first
going
date, and then,
to the drive-in movie.
Yeah, and, we fit 10 people in there, 5 in the trunk and the seats, and get in for one car.
I mean, that's the beauty of these classics is each one of them is a time machine for someone.
What's amazing is these people know more about the cars than we do because they owned them.
Question: what car would you want to own?
You blessed me with the question saying, hey, which one would you choose? Here it is. This is a 59 Impala.
Gosh.
All original, was it 1,300 miles on it? Yeah, 1,355 miles on it.
Unfortunately, it says driver Buzz Sands.
Well, hey, it's not bad that the owner's favorite car is the same.
Yes.
We come from the same breed, I believe.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of having these type of cars on the showroom. People just, give me 10 minutes. They're going down memory lane.
I'll cruise down any lane if I have the 56 Bel Air convertible.
Josh, I got one question for you. Is there a sweet ride here I can drive?
That's a great question. I got something pulled up for you.
You do?
Yeah.
We are taking a sweet ride on the road. So Josh couldn't put me in a 57 Corvette, but he could put me in a 2022 Silverado Z71 Duramax. I'll take it for a ride. Not really, I don't hear the engine at all, but it's whispering, take me to the desert, take me to the high country. I wonder how long I can take this car out for. Thanks, Josh. We'll see you in the week. The mountains are calling me.
No matter whose ride it is, stay driven, my friends.